Okay, but did the entity in Shelby Oaks have to be that thick? Because those arms, oh my god. Welcome back, everyone, to Grizzly Reviews. My name is Garrett, and today we are going to discuss the directorial debut of Chris Stuckmann with Shelby Oaks. A woman's desperate search for her long lost sister falls into obsession upon realizing that the imaginary demon from their childhood may have been real. So going into Shelby Oaks, I was really excited for this movie. Chris Stuckmann is someone in the YouTube space that I have a lot of admiration for. I've been watching his videos since 2018 because of Avengers Infinity War. That's really when I got into watching a bunch of movie reviewers, and the whole film realm was 2018. So, I attribute to what I'm doing with this channel a lot to people like Chris Stuckmann, Jeremy Johns, a lot of other people. And as someone who wants to work in the film industry myself, there is just a ton of respect for what Chris Stuckmann has done with this movie. If you're watching this video, you probably know about the history of this movie, but I'll do a quick rundown. It was one of the highest raising Kickstarters for a film project. They filmed the movie. Mike Flanagan saw it, put his name on it, funded some reshoots for the movie, and it's finally out now in theaters. And unfortunately, what I have to report is that this is not the case of a Talk to Me where it's some YouTubers turned movie makers, and their first movie is this revolutionary. It has it. Talk to Me has it. And unfortunately, I don't think Shelby Oaks does. We're going to start with the positives before we delve into my negatives of this movie. I love how this movie is shot. I think that Stuckmann is really good at crafting a shot and making everything interesting. I think the whole beginning of this movie, the fact that it is part found footage, part documentary, part traditional movie, I think the blend of those at the beginning of the film works fantastic. The hook is really good in this movie. I love the mockumentary stuff at the beginning and how much information we're getting and how it catches us up to present time, and it really sets up the connection between Mia and her sister and the troubles that Mia is having with her present husband. But unfortunately, that is all the character development we really get with Mia in this movie. But I will get back to that later because remember, we're in the positives. We're positively talking about Shelby Oaks right now. There's also a found footage segment that is in the first act of this movie that is genuinely so good. I think anything that we see of the paranormal paranoids in this movie is quite fantastic. There was a lot of tension throughout the movie dealing with them and stuff that Mia is going through. So I was scared during this movie. I think that the movie did a good job at making me tense up, and I am someone who's going to tense up fairly easily within a movie, but I think that this one was getting me there to where I was worried about everything that was going down. The performances in this movie are really fantastic. Camille Sullivan does a great job as Mia. She is really good at looking scared, and that makes me scared. Her reactions to the stuff that she is seeing, I think, is really strong. And then Sarah Durn, who is playing Riley, does a really great job at capturing that found footage acting that you have to have. It has to seem real, and I do think Riley in the found footage stuff is a more fleshed out character than what we inevitably get. You can also tell that Chris Stuckmann has a fondness for old cameras and older technology because the way it's filmed in this movie, I really love. The whole investigation part that she does at the library and the perusal using the technology there, and then the camera that she has at home to watch the tape that shows up, I think is really filmed well And it's just cool to see that technology being used. Unfortunately, I think that is everything positive I have to say about this movie. And the negatives that I have to bring up really come from the place of budget, it seems, and the writing being very unconfident and very simple. So, what I said earlier with Mia and her characterization and us not getting a lot more, really, all that I know about Mia is that she loves her sister. She has family connections to Shelby Oaks. Stuff happened in her childhood regarding Riley, and she wants a kid really bad with her husband, but wasn't able to get that, and that estranged them to where they are distant in the present day. I know nothing about her. I don't know her interests. I don't know her job. I don't know how she is so good at this investigation work. Like, she's really just a person plopped into this movie. There's not a lot of depth to Mia as a character outside of what's face value. Does this movie need to do that work? I think so, because where this movie ends, I don't feel that ending is earned, and we're gonna get to that in a spoiler section. But I just think like Mia's character arc is pretty basic and very predictable because of the writing in this movie. The writing is very weak. You can kind of tell that this is Stuckmann's first movie in that he feels unconfident in the audience being able to put things together. There is a montage of Mia reading a demonology book, and there are just so many up close shots of very specific words that telegraph exactly how the demon does it and how it works. And because that happens in the middle of the movie, you can kind of guess where the ending of this movie is going to go. And it was very unsatisfying. The first half, when she is investigating, when we're watching the mockumentary, and the scene where she is like revealing her investigative work to her husband, I think is really fantastic. That scene ending, because you get a lot of like up close shots of Mia and her husband as she is describing like her investigation, and you see all the pictures, and then there's a shot after she's done that shows them on the opposite sides of the table with their infant crib in the back of the shot on the wall, and that juxtaposition was so good. I think that was like a brutal way to end that scene, and I really felt for Mia and her husband, to be honest, in this situation. Her husband, unfortunately, is that unsupportive family member trope. He dismisses her, he full on leaves. That conversation after she reveals her investigation and what she thinks is going on, he full on walks out of the room, leaves the house, gets in his car, and we see later in a text that he went to go see his dad. That's kind of the last we see of him in this movie. You see him for like a shot at the end, but Mia at this point is so distant from him that there's no resolution. That's just like the last that we see of him. He's not involved with anything in the ending. He's just written off to be like, oh, we're taking some time and like it's healthy, we need it, but I don't buy it. I don't buy it. So when I mentioned the budget, it's just that plot wise, location wise, this movie is very basic. Everything that you see in the found footage stuff is places that we end up going to with Mia, but there isn't a larger investigation of Shelby Oaks. We go to the prison in that county, which I think the prison set is really cool, and the way it's shot and the flashlight that Mia is carrying throughout that scene, I think is quite cool. And the stuff that's set up in the prison with the one cell is very interesting. I think it's all visually fun, and I was kind of enjoying where the movie was going. But then we go back to this abandoned amusement park, and the only part of it that we see is a sign and then the same Ferris wheel broken down structure and the trees that surround it. That is literally the only location in this amusement park that we go to. And to me, that is very unsatisfying and boring. And the budget of the movie is really showing in that sense. I should not blame a movie for having a small budget and it not being able to capture the scale of the movie that I want. But if that is all we see of Shelby Oaks, and the movie is called Shelby Oaks. And I'm just very underwhelmed by the second half of the movie. I do think it's time for us to get into spoilers for this movie, so if you have not seen Shelby Oaks, go see it in theaters, support indie filmmaking, come back, and we can discuss the ending of this movie. Pretty much once Mia was reading the demonology book, you can guess where this movie was going. And I do think the terrible judgment on Mia's side to just willingly follow any clue she gets goes to her detriment. I don't think there is an obsessive nature to Mia so much as certain descriptions of this movie want to telegraph. Like, she misses her sister. We find out that the rest of her YouTube mates are dead. And that stuff was really fun. Like, that is the found footage sequence that I really loved. Their journey through Shelby Oaks. Do I wish that could have been like 5 minutes longer? Yeah. Or give me a whole movie about that. I think found footage is really fun as a horror genre. It's one of my favorites. So I was really drawn into those aspects of this movie. I don't think the mix of them is a problem, the three different genres of filmmaking that you have in this movie. What I will say though is when you stick to things having specific aspect ratios, all of the stuff filmed on camera or like is a YouTube video is in this more square, and then you get a slightly wider frame for the mockumentary, and then you get your traditional movie frame for the traditional movie parts of it. And during the mockumentary part, there is one clip that is filling the frame, I think, of the mockumentary stuff. And then later on in the movie, Mia is watching the Shelby Oaks tape that I want to say Willis brought to her house when he offed himself. The shot is traditional movie frame, but then in the center of it we have like a square TV, and we keep on that square TV throughout the entire time. And then there's this one clip where we filmed the whole traditional movie frame with the found footage stuff, and I did not like that. I think if we're gonna keep a visual structure, we need to maintain that visual structure. That's just my personal opinion. It is such a nitpick. It's such a nitpick, and I don't want to like come down on this movie being like, oh, Chris Stuckmann is a movie reviewer, he should know what he should be doing with his horror movie. No. Like, everyone has to learn to make a movie. I've never made a movie before. Chris Stuckmann is miles ahead of me in the film industry that I want to be a part of. So I do respect the effort there, but I'm still gonna say what I noticed. In good fun, and it's just my opinion, and if you share something different, it's great. So going into Mia's stuff in Shelby Oaks, I loved the prison cell and the setup for what the room was like, and how when we go to this small house that a dog leads us to, that we follow the dog. Mia really just has terrible judgment, and it's not surprising when she ends up possessed at the end of the movie. Is it earned? No, because of how little time we spend in this old woman's house. We find out what happened to Riley, and Riley is just like a shell of a person. We really don't get much characterization from Riley because of how disheveled she is. And what's really confusing to me is the timeline. Has it been 5 years? Has it been 5 years and then 13 years? Has it been just 13 years? I'm really confused as to the year that this specific movie takes place in present day. Is it 2021, 2025, or 26? I'm really confused. And we find out that Willis was possessed. I really don't know if his name was Willis. His name is Wilson Miles. I'm so sorry for saying his name was Willis. His name is Wilson Miles. The stuff that Wilson Miles is doing throughout the prison and everything, matches to where I full on don't remember what I was talking about. The whole stuff with Wilson Miles, let me just try to figure it out. So, I don't know if he got possessed or his mother got possessed first. It passed the possession on to him. He ends up somehow attaching himself to Riley to where when he goes in prison for 5 years from 2002 to 2007. And during this time is when paranormal paranoid begins. And then he gets out of prison after a big riot, and the prison is essentially shut down. And then in 2008 is when Riley goes to Shelby Oaks. So then Wilson Miles goes into their cabin. So he offs the crew of paranormal paranoids and abducts Riley. I don't know if he's the one that is doing the thing to that guy's face, or is that the demon or the hounds? I don't know. So then is it 12 years from there, or is it another 5 years? Because I'm so confused. Turns out Riley was essentially essayed into having a baby, and then because that baby is born, I guess Wilson Miles is released to go to where Mia is living off himself, give her this tape that sets her down on a rabbit path of going to Shelby Oaks, finding her sister, bringing the baby with them. The mom passes on the possession, I guess, in her ritual, I'm assuming. But like everything that happens in the mom's house, you see all the mold, and I do think the production design of this movie does deserve its merit. The house that this woman is in is gross. There is so much like decay and rot in this movie. I like how like the word rot is used throughout this movie. It's really interesting. And I would not want to be in that building. I think I would die just from breathing all of that mold in. It's gross. So we go to this like underground tunnel, kind of barbarian, but not really. But yes, barbarian. And they say this is Blair Witch Project meets Hereditary. No, it's like Blair Witch Project meets Hereditary meets a barbarian. We release Riley from down there. We're trying to escape, and then she wants to go back to where the baby is. And she obviously from the jump wants to kill the baby. I don't know if Mia just thinks she's going to kill the lady, but it's like obviously she wants to do something to that baby. And the setup of Mia and her husband being unable to have a child, that being really the only character growth that we get from Mia, not growth, but like backstory outside of like her familial bonds. It's still a familial bond, but that's why this movie is so frustrating, because I want to know Mia a lot more. We end up rescuing Riley from this situation. This whole third act feels like it amounts to nothing. All of this suspense and tension. What happened to Riley? Now, what happened to Riley is genuinely horrifying. But what Mia is going through is not so horrifying. We come back to Riley being home for a day. A day, mind you, after she's in the hospital. And she is so quick to wanting to kill this baby that Mia essentially boots her out of the window. It is an accident, but I want there to be a slower burn to this happening. This movie really should have been like 15 minutes longer, a little bit more of the found footage stuff in Shelby Oaks, a little bit more investigation within Shelby Oaks itself, or at the end of the movie, spend more time reconnecting these sisters and showing that Mia really does care more about this baby because she's unable to have hers, even though this is an SA baby from someone who is demon possessed. Why do we want this baby so bad? Go adopt someone else. Anyways, Riley gets booted out of the window and then is eaten to death by the demon hounds that aren't real? I don't know. There should have been more consequence to where Mia pushing her was the thing that actually killed her when she landed on the ground, not some other force offing Riley in front of Mia, to where at the very end of the movie, the demon comes behind Mia and like possesses her. To what end? I don't know. I don't know what the point of her getting possessed outside of her being possessed is at the end. That's why this movie is so frustrating, because the hook is so good, and then the payoff at the end is really weak because there is not some big climactic third act rise in tension and scares what's happening. It all seems very basic compared to all of the other scares that we got throughout the movie. And apparently Mike Flanagan put money into this movie so that the gore could be better. So are we just talking about the gore that we saw in the found footage part, or the self-harm that we see the mom doing in her ritual, or the stuff that happening to Riley at the very end? There's only like 4 parts of gore to this movie, and none of it's like, was it really basic at the jump? I don't know. And I do think this is an interesting case of me overhyping this movie. I was so excited. I've been waiting years since Stuckmann announced that this movie was being made. And then with its reshoots and all the post-production stuff that was happening, it took a while for this movie to come out. So I do think if there was a faster time of movie announcement is being made to where it's being released, I think I wouldn't be so disappointed by it, because at least like I didn't spend so much time hyping myself up, which I can't blame like Chris Stuckmann for. It takes time to make a movie. I understand that. I just want something better than what we got, because what we got is just okay. It's really just okay. Anyways, that was a really long-winded discussion of the end of this movie. I am so sorry if that took so long. It's gonna be worse for me editing it, which sucks, but that's okay. And yeah, Shelby Oaks is a fine time at the movie. There is some really good tension, some quality scares. I think the production design and cinematography of this movie is fantastic. I enjoy the acting to a point, because when you start not rooting for a character, I just don't care about the performance at that point. The idea of Shelby Oaks is really wonderful. It's just obviously someone's first movie, and I do wonder what a Chris Stuckmann movie would be like if he got someone else's script. I know there was a story credit to someone else, but it's still written and directed by Chris Stuckmann. So I would love to see what he does next. I hope he gets more opportunities to make movies, and I will support everything that he does, because again, he is an inspiration to me. It's just in the sense of Shelby Oaks having a really underwhelming third act and resolution to its problems, I just walked out of the movie blasé, kind of bored. The second half is not very entertaining of a movie, to be honest. I wish there were more people with Mia, perhaps, in her investigation of the grounds, and that there were more consequences to the movie. But otherwise, it feels very safe. It feels very underdeveloped. And unfortunately, I have to give Shelby Oaks a 7 out of 10. I want to just say, oh, the cinematography is fantastic. This movie is a visual marvel to look at, but it's nothing like revolutionary. I do love, again, the first half of this movie, I think is pretty perfect. Outside of us getting more character development and information about Mia, maybe flesh out her husband more, but those are just like really nitpicks to an overall like entertaining first half of the movie, when the second half is not entertaining. And that sucks to say. But those have been my thoughts on Shelby Oaks. Let me know what you thought about the movie in the comments below. If you like this video, give it a like. And if you want to see more of my stuff, hit subscribe so you know when my next video comes out. Until then, Halloween. I will see you all later. Bye-bye.